To the degree that the reasoning is weak, to that degree the high-spirited part may say, no way, let's get that water. To the degree that you are very clear about the fact that this water is dangerous, to that very degree it's easy for the soul then, to the high-spirited part of it, to be on the side of reason and hold to the no and blunt that desire for that water. Well, then look here. Is it always true with this high-spirited part that sometimes it can join, and sometimes it can join with a desire, sometimes it can join with reason? Take two cases, right? Whenever you've done something wrong, or you've been wronged, think of a time when you've been wronged. Doesn't the high-spirited part of your nature become inflamed and become interested in satisfying that wrong and have pictures in your mind of what you need to do in order to satisfy that need? And in that degree, would you not agree? High-spirited part is running rampant and it's going along with desires and it's not listening to reason. And you run the risk of acting out perhaps more strongly than you should, and it may not even be appropriate to the circumstance. On the other hand, if you're doing wrong and you know you've done wrong, would you not agree? You're more gentle at such occasion. If you know you've done wrong, you know it's done against reason, then you're more temperate. Because you know, I shouldn't have done that. High-spirited part then is moderate and it sides more with reason. But is there some principle we might be able to do, to invoke, to see this better? And that's the principle I want to get to now. It's a very interesting one, and if you once put it in your mind, right, you'll have something good, and you can always use it. Right? This is the way Socrates decides on this issue of whether the soul as a unity moves towards something, or whether it responds in the particular parts that we've just outlined. He says, look here, keep this in your mind. The same thing will never do, notice he puts it in the most general way, will never do or undergo opposite things in the same part of it and towards the same thing. And if we find this happening, or if we ever find this happening, we shall know it was not one thing but more than one. That's the principle. See, that's what I used over here. Right? So, are we talking about the soul? Yes. Does the soul, right, does it ever undergo opposite things in the same part of it? Taking the example here, is it possible that the reason would say, I have good reasons for saying no to that water, and I also have good reasons for saying yes? Well, then it doesn't know whether it's right or wrong. But if it does know, it can't hold the opposite position in respect to what it is doing, to the degree that it knows. Well, try another way, all right? The same thing will never do or undergo opposite things in the same part of it towards the same thing. Well, if that's happening, we'll know it's not one but more than one. But here we have it, don't we? One part of the soul is going towards the desire, the other part is saying no, and the other part, reasoning, is trying to support one or the other. And therefore, would you not agree? It can't be a one, but it must be more than one. Do it again. See? How do you know you're dealing with something more than one? Well, if the same thing undergoes opposite things in the same part of it and towards the same thing, right? If we find this happening, we'll know it wasn't one thing, more than one. Let's use this now. We are going to use this now. Now, what do you need? Now look here, what do you need in order to pursue this? This can be any goal. This can be any goal. We can put a variety of goals in here. So we can select goals in here. Would you agree, in order to pursue your goal, you're going to need a couple of qualities present? Well, you certainly have to be willing to risk whatever it takes to gain the thing that you think is most significant to you. And therefore, would you not agree, what you must have is some sense of being brave or courage. Otherwise, you'd never be willing to risk for anything for your goal. Couldn't possibly do anything without that. Now, let's see whether we can get something else in here. Would you agree you also must have a certain state of mind when you pursue it? Right? Should you be reckless? Should you be reckless in your bravery? No, you can't be reckless. We would hesitate calling it bravery. Well, you could appear courageous, but you must have it in a certain tempered way. Now, I'm going to call it, just for the moment, temperance. Right? But look here. Would you not agree you're not going to pursue that goal unless, on your best judgment, it makes perfectly good sense for you to do so? That is to say, you have good reasons for regarding it as a highly valued object or goal, and you want to pursue it. Therefore, there should be some knowing on your part. I'm just going to call that wisdom. Right? By that I mean a certain kind of knowledge, by the way. Let's make sure. And you want to pursue your goal in such a way that one thing you want to be sure of, that in that pursuit of it, you don't sacrifice other things that are either equally or perhaps even more important than the goal you're pursuing. So there has to be some sense, therefore, that what you're doing has this aspect of justice. Now, these qualities must be in a state as well, going back to the three parts of the state. If we have guardians, they have to show bravery, right? I mean, otherwise there wouldn't be much soldiery if there weren't. They have to be moderate, otherwise you would have a bunch of Hell's Angels running loose in society. Right? There must be some direction, and there must be a certain fairness, justice. And we want to explore those four not only on the level of the state, but now on the level of the soul. So let's do that. Here's where we jump in. Now, look here. What do we mean by courage? Now I'm pulling things, all of this, of course, is out of Plato's Republic. It's a power. Okay, what is it? It's a power. Yes, it's an idea. But the idea is about a power. That power does something. Once it's there, it functions to preserve, right? Preserve something about, now the translation I was using uses the word faith, but it's really belief, right? Courage, therefore, is such a power that preserves through everything of right and lawful belief about what is dangerous and what is not. What is it? It's a courage. Right? Courage is a power. It does something. It preserves us through everything, right and lawful belief, right and lawful belief about what is dangerous and what is not. And only that are we going to regard as dangerous. Nothing other than what is regarded